Question: what is the safest action for the Cybertruck driver? Question: how should you drive near a railway crossing? Question: what does a red octagon-shaped sign mean? Question: when should you use high beam headlights at night? Question: when parallel parking on a hill, which way should you turn your front wheels? Question: when can you stop in bicycle lane? Question: when can you cross at a pedestrian light? Question: what is the speed limit on a motorway? Question: how should the driver proceed in fog? Question: what does a yellow traffic light mean? Question: what is the safest action for the Cybertruck driver? Question: how should the driver proceed on this road? Question: what should the driver do on a slippery road? Question: who has priority at a T-junction? Question: what should you do if you approach a flashing red traffic light? Question: when driving in heavy rain, what is the best way to avoid hydroplaning? Question: when must you yield at a crosswalk? Question: what must you do at a railroad crossing? Question: when driving in rain, when should you use your windshield wipers and headlights? Question: what should you do when approaching a railroad crossing without signals or gates? Question: when must you use your seatbelt? Question: what should you do if your vehicle starts to skid? Question: what should you do before entering a curve? Question: what should you do before changing lanes? Question: when driving downhill, what should you do to control your speed? Question: when should you use your headlights? Question: when driving on a two-lane road, when is it legal to pass another vehicle? Question: what must you do at a yield sign? Question: when should you use your turn signals? Question: what does a broken white line on the road mean? Question: what should you do when you hear a siren or see flashing lights from an emergency vehicle behind you? Questions: when are you allowed to turn right at a red traffic light? Questions: what does a solid yellow line on your side of the road mean? Questions: when driving at night, how can you reduce the glare from oncoming headlights? Question: what should do when you see a school bus stopped with flashing red lights on a two-lane road? Questions: when driving in fog, what lights should you use? Questions: when must you yield to pedestrians in a crosswalk? Questions: what should you do if another driver is tailgating you? Question: before turning left at an intersection, you should. Question: when should you use your emergency flashers? Question: if you see a stop sign at an intersection with no white stop line, you must. Question: when driving near a school bus with flashing yellow lights, you should. Question: if you are involved in a minor collision with a parked car and cannot find the owner, you must. Question: when approaching an intersection with a flashing yellow light, you should. Question: what is the legal blood alcohol concentration, BAC, limit for most drivers aged 21 and older in the U.S.? Question: what should you do if your vehicle starts to hydroplane? Question: when entering a freeway, you should. Question: what is the first thing you should do if your car starts to go off the road? Question: when driving at night, you should dim your high beams when. Question: if you are feeling drowsy while driving, the safest thing to do is: Question: when driving in fog, you should: Question: before backing up your vehicle, you should: Question: when should you use your horn? Question: when driving on icy roads, you should: Question: what should you do if your brake pedal suddenly sinks to the floor while driving? Question: if you see a pedestrian with a white cane or guide dog, you must: Question: when driving in a construction zone, you should: Question: what should you do if you miss your exit on the freeway?